So I'm here to talk about the power of passion projects, and it's one of the things that's really close to me, and something that I'm really passionate about, which is why Fred asked me to come and chat. I too, same as Fred, have a digital marketing background. I worked at a social media agency, and also resigned and left last month. So Fred and I are obviously on the same life journeys, and so we go and we don't surf together. We stand on the beach and look at terrible waves. So I'm currently a stay-at-home dad, which is one of the coolest things I've ever done. I have 2 little kids, and it's fun and not easy in any way whatsoever. So I don't want to talk too much about myself. I want to talk about this guy. So Matteo Flamini is, or was up until September, a midfielder for Arsenal. And as you know, like British Premier League soccer players, they get paid a fortune of money. Now, Matteo is an interesting guy because he's really smart and relatively good looking. But what he did is he basically won every single prize there could be for doing passion projects the right way. So about this time last year, he sprung a surprise on all of his teammates because no one knew at the time. And he used all of his downtime, his time on the bench, and he used some of the money that he made from football to invest in research into biochemicals, into trying to find a replacement for fossil fuels. And it was a passion of his, and he realized that he loves playing soccer. It's great for his income. It's incredible from a salary perspective, but it wasn't fulfilling for him. So he and a mate decided they're going to start doing this research, and that's for a couple of years they just did research. He found out about as much as he could, and then eventually they took the plunge, and they were like, listen, let's see if we can actually create a synthetic replacement for petrol. And so they did, and they according to the reports, they've accomplished it. They managed to do it. It's being rolled out. They're doing all the production now, and his business is estimated in the region of about $1 billion US. But no one knew, right? So none of his players knew until like one day he kind of came out and went, "Hey guys, like just so you know, we started this business in the background. It's mate of mine. It's worth $1 billion. But I'm going to carry on playing football because I love it, and that's just a passion project." So he basically wins at passion projects. But it's a cool kind of intro. The hassle that I have is I get asked a lot around this definition of passion projects. A lot of people go like, "Oh, I read books and I love reading and I'm passionate about it. Is that a passion project?" And I'm like, cool. If it is to you, then you do that, right? I really can't. I've never been able to articulate a true definition of a passion project. So what I want to do is just kind of explain what it is to me, and then if it makes sense to you guys, then you can go from there, because I don't want to be too prescriptive about it. It can be whatever the hell you want it to be. So for me, a passion project comes down to pure freedom. Having spent 15 years working in the digital agency space, your life and your income relies on being able to sell creative ideas to clients, and it's taxing, right? Waking up and trying to think, how do I sell this product to that person in a cool and interesting way, and how do I get it approved by the client who maybe isn't or is maybe not intelligent, and they have final say. And so what happens is that you come up with this really cool concept. You're like, I know this is going to work. I've got all the experience. I've done the research. It's amazing. You go and present it, and then they start fiddling with it, okay? And they start changing. They start telling you their opinions on things. And they're well within their rights to, like agency people, you aren't always right. Creative people, we often go off script a little bit too much. But after a while, after 15 years, it starts to get a bit taxing, right? It starts to curtail your freedom to be able to experiment and try things, because it's not your brand and it's not your budget. And so you don't actually have a right to mess with it too much. And so for me, my passion project started out as a way to get away from that. I wanted something in my life where I could be creative, and I wanted something in my life where no one could tell me what to do. Not a single person on the planet could go, "You need to do this," or "You need to do it this way." I made every decision, and I loved all the successes, and I learned from all the failures. But anything I wanted to try, I could. And so for me, that sense of freedom around decision-making was the most critical aspect for me around having a passion project, because it is an absolute release from our day-to-day jobs. It's somewhere where you can go and go, this is the dream, this is my thing, right? And so with that, I started the @ South Africa Instagram account. I started the account back in May 23rd, 2013, so just over 3 years ago. And it was, I guess the idea originated because I wanted to have a creative project, but I'm not actually that creative. and I can't do design and then that kind of stuff. So, but I was like, oh, I want to do something creative. And so I wanted to do an Instagram project. I was absolutely and still absolutely in love with Instagram as a platform and as a storytelling mechanism. I love South Africa, and I went, well, let's put those two together, and let's do this cool Instagram account. And while I'm a fairly decent photographer, I definitely knew I didn't have the time to travel around South Africa and take all these cool photos of South Africa. So I basically just steal them. I just take other people's photos off of Instagram and go, this is a cool photo, and I'm going to share it. And then I give credit, because then it's not theft, it's just borrowing. And that's it. And I realized, I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to start this account, and I'm going to repost other photos, and I'm going to try and show the world how amazing South Africa is, right? There's a lot of media outlets that make money on positioning South Africa in a bad light, and I'm happy for them to do their job. That's cool. I wanted my job to be showing South Africa in a good light, and I thought Instagram was a cool place to do it. But in hindsight, I didn't actually know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to start sharing photos, and that's where it kind of started, right? So what I did is I started looking on Instagram for a username for this project that I wanted to do. And it started, I was going to do a 365. I was like, I'm going to post a cool photo every day for 365 days and then see what happens. So I was like, well, let's go see who's doing what with the @South Africa username, because surely someone's doing something cool. So I went to @South Africa. That was the, where am I going? That was the picture. Her name is Elizabeth Green. She's a young American lady, and she was in South Africa in November 2010 when Instagram launched. And so she registered @South Africa. She was the first person. Oh, that's cool. And then did nothing. She had 5 photos. That was the most recent. The previous 4 were nail polish. This was the most interesting by far. And so what I did is I was like, well, let's take a chance, right? Or sometimes you just got to ask. So you can actually, stupidly cropped the screen, the thing over it. But you can see, hi, I want to run a campaign profiling the best. Would love to use this account. Would you consider letting me use it, right? And I thought, well, let's throw it out there. And then I heard nothing back. And then 3 months later, as I do, wake up in the morning, first thing you do is you check Instagram. So I open up Instagram, I see one little comment, and like if someone comments on your Instagram, you check it. So I was like, oh, cool. And it was @South Africa had replied to that comment and said, all it said was, what's your email address? So I was like, screw the spam bots. It's Craig@ZA. Here you go, please. And I sent a reply, and I was on my scooter on the way to work, and I was sitting there going, so how much will I pay for this? Because now it's a tough question. Now in my mind, we've made contact. The next thing is she's going to go, this is how much I want for the account. And so I was going like, would I pay like $1,000? Like, that's quite hectic. Like, I don't know what this thing's going to be. I was like, I reckon I would pay $1,000, but I'm probably not going to pay more than that. So I got to the office, opened up my laptop, and there's a mail from Elizabeth Green, and she goes, hey, Craig, here's the username, here's the password, I've deleted all my photos, I've changed the email address of the account over to your email address from mine, it's all yours. And then she ended off by going, I love South Africa, so make me proud. And I was like, you cursed me, God damn it. Okay, now I have to make Elizabeth Green proud. So basically my entire emotional driver is to make this lady who I've never met and never spoken to other than on email, is to make her proud. But it was a great starting point for the account. And that was it. So the first 365 days I woke up in the morning, I just had my son, so kind of at 6 a.m. you're awake, you're going, and I posted one photo every single day for 365 days, and for the first 365 days I asked permission to use the photo to repost of every single photo I posted. I'd asked the permission and waited for the person to reply. And after 365 photos, I realized not a single person had ever said no, and so I took it as a default assumption going forward. And obviously, also after a year, the amount of engagement on the account meant I couldn't actually keep track of people responding anyway. So it made life a lot easier. So that's kind of where it started. And I guess it's got a very simple thing, right? For me, I post a photo every day, but my job is to find cool and interesting stories, like the kind of stuff that I want to share with the world. Because it all comes down to, if I like it, then it goes live. That's the only kind of person that I try and make happy. So my job is to tell incredible stories. So the photo on the left is a photographer called Chris Vessels, and these kids down at Coffee Bay, they lived in a village across the river mouth, and they would walk like a couple of k's from the village to the river mouth and then swim across the river mouth to the hole in the wall. And they would act as informal tour guides to get tips, and then they would swim back across the river. So he spent a day down there taking images, and I absolutely love the image. Shannon Wild, baby photos. Photo on the far right is Tebogo Malope, and this guy was featured on CNN. It was an incredible story, but he used to sit on the side of Empire Road, and he'd read books and then do reviews to people in traffic, and if they liked the book, then they'd buy it off him, right? So it's quite a cool entrepreneurial story. And that's it, incredible stories, right? We did rhino relocation. There was a lot of people asking a lot of random questions about helicoptering an upside-down rhino. The guy in the middle was a herdsman in the middle of the Free State, and some guy stopped on the side of the road, walked into the field, asked if he could take the guy's photo, and it looks amazing. Tell that story. And then the photo on the far right was a baby zebra got trapped in a mud hole, and the rhino rescued it with its horn. It lifted it out of the mud and killed it with the horn, right? Which is a shitty story. That sucks, right? But it was a cool story. And but interestingly, what I did is I cheated. So when I posted the photo, when I posted it, I just said, I did the cool, happy story. I did like, oh, look, a rhino rescued a baby zebra from the thing. And then I think the 5th comment, some guy said, he just said, you didn't tell the whole story. And I was like, oh. So I went back and I edited it, and then I said there, like, unfortunately, the baby zebra died from injuries sustained during the rescue. But anyway, there's cool stories, and that's literally what I try to do, right? I try to find cool stories, and I try to share those stories. The first campaign that I did, and it was in the first year, and when we had our first, I can't remember the year, it must have been 2014, when we had the elections. And so I mailed a couple of mates on Instagram that I knew, and I said, hey guys, I want to do this campaign called Vote SA. Someone said, go speak to the ICC, and so they'll probably sponsor this. So I said, fantastic. So I went and sat down in ICC, and I had a presentation ready, and the guy that I was pitching to walked in and put a BlackBerry on the table. And I was like, oh, this is over before it even began. And I don't think I made it past slide 2 before we kind of looked at each other and went, yeah, let's kill this. And so I left, and I was like, well, these guys aren't interested, so I'm going to do it anyway. So I got a group of Instagrammers, and I said, please just start telling people to use the hashtag VoteSA. If you're in the queue or whatever it is, like tell your voting story using this hashtag. And there was no photos on the hash VoteSA. And in the one day of voting, there was 6,000 photos using that tag, and my jaw hit the floor. And I was like, that's incredible. And so the whole day, I just shared amazing photos throughout the day of all these different people's voting stories. But I realized the power of the account. I realized how it could galvanize people to contribute and be part of a bigger story. And interestingly, the account only had about 8,000 followers at the time. So to get 6,000 entries was quite a big thing. I then did Heritage Day because personally, I hate Braai Day, and what I hate more than Braai Day is people bitching about Braai Day. But I'm not a big fan of Braai Day. So I thought, from a responsibility point of view, I figured let's use the account to actually share kind of heritage stories other than Braai stuff. And so I went onto all the hashtags and I searched through all of South Africa's heritage sites, and then found cool photos from each of the heritage sites. And then we went went site by site through all of South Africa's heritage sites. And there was a lot of traction on the account. I think there's 12. So I ended up doing 12 photos in the day. And then finally, we did the Instameet. And the Instameet was something that I'd wanted to do for a while. So Instagram meetups are quite common, but no one had done a South Africa, like a national one. They're always like, hey, like Woodstock and Cape Town meetup and that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, if it's the @South Africa account, then it's only right that I do the @South Africa Instameet. So I went to SA Tourism and I said, please, can I have some money? And they said, okay, cool. Eventually, they said, okay, cool, you can have some money. And it wasn't much, but I went up and I went, cool, we're going to do this. So I went up and just put a simple announcement up on the page, and I said, it's happening, there's an Instameet. We decided to do it in Graaff-Reinet because it's as close to the center of the country as possible, and was strategically designed to be as equally inconvenient for everyone to get there. Because if you do it close to Cape Town, then the Joburgers bitch, and if you do it close to Joburg, the Cape Townians bitch. So I was like, Graaff-Reinet, right? So we went into the middle of Graaff-Reinet. Again, I was amazed. We set up a small website and said, if you want to go, please register so that I know, I can just get an idea if people are going to show up or not. My contract with SA Tourism said I guarantee that at least 50 people will show up. That was like my underwriting, I was like guarantee 50 people, and then I just sweated. I was like, oh my God, hope 50 people arrive. So we had 460 people register on the website to say that they would drive all the way to Graaff-Reinet and for 4 days and have an Instameet. They had to pay for their travel, accommodation, everything themselves. They just, do you want to come and have a cool time? And then we had over 250 people arrive and sign in Graafrenet, which blew my mind. I was like, you guys, like, this is incredible. Like, all these cool people from all over the country came through. Everyone drove there. Everyone had adventures along the way and so on and so forth. So it was really cool. And then I want to show you guys the video that came out of the Insta-Meet. So, and this was put together by a friend of mine, Gareth.
We all begin somewhere, starting from afar, close, from within. Some ease in and others charge blind, but as our journeys begin, our paths become shared. And as we meet, we'll see what we see, and beauty will find us in the most unexpected places. Moments will be made as the finer details become the subject of our memories. We find momentum, a movement of hearts, as the change in our minds slowly but surely become the reality we've desired. Differences become clear, and our colors beautiful. And we'll realize that diversity is our biggest strength. We began in different places, and those who were once strangers now stand beside us. We awaken to find we are creating, alive together.
Yeah, so that was the event, and if you haven't been to Graafrenet, you really have to go. It's an absolutely incredible town. I'd never been until the event, so like I arrived in the town going, okay, let's see what happens. But I can tell you one thing, that in 15 years of running a business and doing what I honestly believe is some of the coolest work on the planet, this was by far the most rewarding. Not necessarily the coolest, most creative, or whatever it is, ROI, none of that stuff, right? But from a personal perspective, it was hands down the most rewarding thing. Driving back from Graafrenet was just like, I was literally like floated back on Clyde now. It was insane, and I'll tell you a cool story about it a little bit later on. So while these things are not necessarily about the numbers, I want to take you guys through the numbers on the South Africa account because I'm really proud of them. And for a passion project, it's actually done pretty well. So those are the numbers. The first number is the number of days I've been posting. So 1,285 days as of today. I've posted every single day. I've never missed a day. Whether I'm on leave, away, 2 children being born, all that kind of stuff, like I still post. Still the most important thing I do first thing in the morning. I've posted 1,987 photos into the gallery. Each of them is an incredible photo, is an incredible story. And as a single kind of collection point, like I often have people going, oh, I scrolled back, like infinite scroll through the photos. They're amazing. So if I achieved nothing else, like pulling together an archive of amazing South African pictures is still quite a cool thing. There's 92,000 comments on the account since I started it. There's 158,000 followers. There's 256,000 tags. So I use hash, this is South Africa. So there's 256,000 photos have been contributed to the hashtag, which is quite low. Actual people actually tagging South Africa, there's probably about 150, 200 photos are tagged with the South Africa username a day, which is cool because that's where I find the photos to share, but it's quite, like the bigger the account gets, like it just becomes quite overwhelming. And then 6.2 million likes. So since I started the account, the photos combined have achieved 6.2 million likes, which is a lot of likes, right? And it's cool for me. Like I said, and I absolutely love that number, because I think there's 6.2 million times a human being has gone, I like that photo of South Africa, right? And that's got to make a difference, right? That's got to make people want to come to South Africa. It's got to inspire people to go, oh my word, I love this, right? When I look through the comments and you see people tagging their friends, going, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and you'll see them going through the gallery, looking for things that they want to do on their holiday, and then tagging their travel mates, going, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And they use the photos to build itineraries, and that's really cool. Like, and when you see when you as obsessed with the account as I am, you see the patterns quite quickly. So those are the numbers. When it comes to, so that's my passion project. Now I want to talk about passion projects in general, because what I would love is, if nothing else, for at least one of you to leave tonight and go, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start my passion project, and just start tomorrow, and start with the smallest little thing, and then be consistent with it. Because while those numbers are cool, it's still like 1,000, however many days of posting every single day to get the account to a cool size. So I want to tackle some of the myths. The first one is that someday you'll retire. I truly, truly do not believe that we will retire, right? I think that the concept of retirement, the way my grandfather retired, he was a tailor, and he worked in the same suit-making place for like 40 years, and then retired, and then watched the news and died, right? I believe that concept of retirement isn't going to exist for us. I think that we will morph. We will move from having full-time employment into having part-time or flexi-time, or nomadic entrepreneurship is one of the things now, where people just start traveling, but they run businesses, they have income streams. And the reality is that you have to. Like, you've got to keep your mind active. And there's so much cool stuff to do that I think that, speaking personally, like, I don't want to have days where I don't have anything to do. I cannot think of anything worse than waking up and not having something to do on a day. So I think the first thing we've got to accept is that this concept of retirement has changed. And we can start working now to build things that we can do after we've retired. The next myth is that you've got to quit. A lot of people ask me, like, oh yeah, I'd love to do this thing, but like, I have a job and I've got to pay the bills and stuff like that. And for me, a passion project is not a job. It's not about quitting your job to go and do this. If it gets to that point where you can do it and it's something you want to do, absolutely go for it. Like, that's your thing. But a passion project it's a part-time thing. Like, keep your job, right? Keep it, because you need it. You need the income. And focus your time and energy outside of your work on something that is passionate, right? I hate the consumerism of content, right? And I get the irony in it, because like, the account is about other people consuming the content. But be both, right? Don't just be a consumer. Don't just sit there and have content flying at you. Be a contributor as well. There's so much cool stuff that you can contribute, but you really don't have to quit your job to start a passion project. The next thing is that you need permission. Like, this is my single biggest thing that I could ever say, is you do not need permission, right? I think for the first month after I started posting photos on @South Africa, I was convinced that someone like FBI level stuff was going to knock on my door and go, give us the username back, right? Like, you do not have a right to use the @South Africa Instagram account. And the conversations that I have with SA Tourism, like, scare the hell out of me, because I'm sitting there going, you must understand that the South Africa Instagram account has 1 million impressions a week. Right? So if anyone understands, like, on the web side of things, that's massive. It's a massive publishing platform. Like, it rivals the likes of Mail and Guardian, all these big publishing platforms. 1 million impressions a week is huge. And a civilian has it. Like, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm in a bad mood and I go, I'm done with this country, like, that's not necessarily, you don't necessarily want that kind of publishing platform to be in the hands of someone who doesn't work for the government or kind of quasi-government organization. So from a responsibility point of view, I take it as a massive responsibility to not have bad days. But you really, really don't need permission. And a lot of the excuses that people use to not start passion projects is you convince yourself that you have to get permission from someone to be able to start something. And you truly don't. Rather start it and have someone come and tell you to stop it. Right? If someone comes and tells you, you've got to stop this, then go, cool, let me speak to my lawyer, and then I'll get back to you. But still start. Don't assume that you can't do it. Then the next myth is this thing around do what you love, right? And I think it's like parents who really don't know what advice to give to their children anymore around careers and that kind of stuff, because if they're disconnected from the way the world works now, they just go, do what you love. It's a lie. Don't do what you love. Truly, 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 the worst thing you could ever do is do what you love. It is such an outlier to find a person whose job is their life and their passion and stuff like that. And we tend to focus this on the 1% of people who happen to get it right. And the 99% of the people feel that they are not that person, right? The reality is do what your job needs to be what you're good at. It's got to be the thing that you can make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Do what you're good at. Save what you love for a passion project, right? Because I can tell you now, the moment you are, the fastest way to kill something that you love is to have to make money doing it. Because when you have to make money, you have to toe the line for the person who's paying the check, which means you're back in meeting rooms with someone going, I know you're creative, and I hired you, and I want you to do this thing for me because of what you've done over there, but I want you to do it my way. And then you're like, oh, back in hell, right? Do what you're good at. Make the most amount of money you can in the shortest period of time, and use the money and the time that you have left over to do what you love. That's my sound advice. And then the next myth is that it's all about the numbers. And so while I put up the numbers earlier, and they are important to me, the thing that happened in Crawford with Fense was the single most important thing that's ever happened to me in over 3 years of running the account. So I'll quickly tell you the story. So we had 4 days of the event at Crawford, and the Saturday night was the big party. So we hired the town hall, which looked like something out of a Wes Anderson movie. Like it was, promise you, I think it was built in the 1700s. Like it's old school, wooden floors. If you didn't like school, you were not going to like this building, right? But we had a big party there. We got all these local restaurants to do food stalls, and everyone had an amazing time. And it was kind of the end for me. It was the point where I got to go, okay, I can relax. This thing was cool. It was amazing. So I was sitting outside on the town hall steps, smoking a hubbly bubbly, kind of catching my breath. This is the wrong phrase. Smoking hubbly bubbly and chilling out a little bit. And I was just kind of watching the people, being super proud of myself. And Offense was standing there. And Offense, he's like a 6'6" black dude who's huge. And he was wearing one of these low bull caps like this that just said Black Pride on the front, right? And there were these two old Afrikaans guys, and when I say old, they were late 60s, early 70s, who when they registered for the event on the first morning and they were in the queue, I was nudging the lady next to me, helping do registrations. I'm like, these guys think there's free food or something. I don't know, but please will you explain when they get to the front of the queue, just explain this is not their event. So she was like, it's cool, I'll just ask them for their Instagram handles. It won't be awkward. So they get to the front of the queue, and she goes, hey guys, how's it going? What are your Instagram handles? And the guy's like, oh, it's at so-and-so. And she goes through, and these two guys have registered. And they're like, we're from Crawford. We are the Crawford Instagram community. But they're in their Sunday, Afrikaans Sunday bests. So I'm like, guys, welcome, this is amazing. These guys were a hit. They were on every walk. They were doing guiding. They were telling people about the town. It was unbelievable. So I was like, that is amazing. These two old guys registered for Insta Meet in their own town. So anyway, Saturday night, sitting outside, and the one guy standing awkwardly, lurking behind, his Instagram handle's Uncle Scrooge, so lurking behind Scrooge. And eventually, kind of, Scrooge senses this guy, turns around and goes, hey man, how's it going? And this old man goes, excuse me, are you Uncle Scrooge? And he goes, yeah. And this guy goes, I'm your biggest fan. And Scrooge just goes, oh my man, and just gives us like the biggest bear hug you've ever seen. And I'm sitting there going okay, that's pretty cool. And then they sat for 30 minutes just going through each other's, and Scrooge's like, no, dude, I'll follow you. And the guy was almost passed out. He's like, oh my God, Uncle Scrooge was following me on Instagram. And I just sat there and I went that's it, right? You take everything else away. If I only ever get that moment out of having done all of this, it's worth it. It was the single coolest thing. Everything else pales in comparison to how cool that moment was. And all I can say is if you have a passion project that brings you to a point where you get to experience something as cool as that, then it makes it all worth it. Because for me, it's not about money. It's about sharing cool South African stories and bringing people together. And that was the ultimate story for making that happen. And Uncle Scrooge is an absolute legend. I've never seen give another guy a bigger man hug in my life. So I guess if you're sitting here going, oh, maybe I will start a passion project, maybe I won't, or whatever. The only legitimate excuse you have for not doing it is that you don't want to. And it is legitimate. If you don't want to start a passion project, please, don't do it. It'll probably be more painful than it's worth, right? But if you want to, all of the tools are there that exist to be able to start something. The opportunities are there. If your passion project is about solving a problem, the world has tons of problems right now. Like you won't be queuing up to tackle a problem. Trust me, the problems are queuing up, waiting for people to go, I'm maybe going to try and solve this problem right now, and start it, right? And again, like going back to the thing, you don't need permission. Just start. You'll be fine, right? So the only excuse you have for not starting a passion project is that you don't want to, and that is okay. So to kind of wind down, I think I want to go through my best advice out of everything that I've learned from running a cool passion project. My best advice is this. The first piece of advice is only one person matters. And this rolls in two ways, right? The first way is that whatever, if your project is, or mine's around content creation, but whatever your project is, focus on a single target audience person, like literally like a name, right? Find a person who has a problem that you can solve, or find a person who wants something that you can create, right? And solve that. If you start a project going, I need to solve this massive global issue, you won't get off the ground. Make it a micro thing. Like I started South Africa, I was like, I just need to post one photo a day. Like it really isn't a lot to ask. And it's become this whole other life. But I didn't plan that. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I had to start with a simple thing. So define an audience of one. Create a single person that you want to solve a problem for, create a piece of content for, and go for them. And then the second way that you can spin only one person matters is that you're the only person that matters, right? I had a lot of people say to me, Craig, how do you choose the photos that you post? And I go, if I like it. That's it. Like if I get consumed thinking, oh, will people really like this? Or will this be the most liked photo ever? If you get into that, you're trapped. Like now you're serving 158,000 people who all potentially want something different. Like the only person that I need to make happy is myself. And if I make myself happy, if I like that photo, then there's a good chance other people will like it as well. The next piece of advice is lust for scarcity. The way I can explain this is like the definition of a job is to do the least amount of stuff in the longest period of time, right? Like that's what we do in our jobs, right? How can I stretch this piece of work out to get to 5 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock when my alarm goes off, I'm out of there, right? But that's it. Like there are very few people. There's a lot of people who work hard, but there's very few people who work hard every single day with purpose, right? And it's a natural trap. When you have a lot of time to accomplish something that isn't necessarily for you, the trap is that you start doing it slowly and you stretch it out, right? I genuinely do believe if you want your passion project to work, you have to force scarcity. You have to limit the amount of time you can work on it, limit the resources. Don't try to throw money at it. Don't dedicate days and months of time, right? Make a small amount of time available and a small amount of budget, if any, and force that scarcity to force you to make smart decisions, to narrow that focus, to decide I'm going to do one thing and I'm going to do one thing well. But if you have too much time and too much money, you're gonna get lost around what is actually important. So force the scarcity into the project and it'll make you focus and make smart decisions. The next piece of advice is avoid the money sadness, right? Money ruins everything. The moment you have to make money doing something, it completely changes it. And for me, it will destroy a passion project, right? And that's what I'm not saying don't make money doing it. I'm saying if you have to make money doing it. Because like I said earlier, money requires another person to be involved in a transaction. And the rules are that they don't just get to give you money, they get to give you advice and demands and all this kind of stuff. And for me, that's a road to nowhere. Like, I haven't made a single cent out of the South Africa Instagram account. I have people going, hey, can we do like influencer campaigns and will you post stuff about our hotels? And I'm like, no, I'm not interested, right? Because I don't want to introduce money to it. I think it'll ruin it. It completely destroy the purpose of what I'm trying to achieve with it, right? And I think if you do that, if I introduce money, I remove the passion. Now I'm going to sit, the moment I take that first check, I'm going to go, ooh, well, how much money could I make out of this? And then suddenly it becomes it becomes a revenue goal. My passion becomes how much money can I make instead of how many people can I inspire to come to South Africa, let's say. So absolutely do as much as you can to delay making money out of your passion project. And then use it to push your skills, right? It's for you. You're the only person that matters in this transaction, right? So there's no failure with this, right? You just got to try. It's an opportunity for you to go, I don't know how to do this thing, and I'm going to try and figure it out, right? But you're not in a job So you don't have to kind of lie and go, yeah, I know how to do that, and then go in and pretend that you know how to do it, right? If you don't know how to do something, it's totally okay. You can go, I don't know how to do this, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to learn. But that constant experimentation and constant learning is critical for improving and for having fun and for enjoying what you're doing. I genuinely do believe that if you're challenged mentally, like your level of value and enjoyment that you get out of something skyrockets. And then to finish off, my absolute final thought is to kind of pave the way for you guys, and from a mantra perspective, I repeat this to myself every time I'm like, I want to try something new, is the theory of failing in a forest. You know, they say, if a tree falls in a forest, like, you know, can anyone hear it, right? Like, there's so much going on in the world. People just don't care enough to really care what you're working on, right? You may as well start. You may as well try, because there's no downside to failing. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Try find a new project, bin it, kill it, right? But by definition, if it doesn't work, it's because no one cared and no one knew about it. And if people don't know and don't care, well, then that's not failure, right? You fall down a flight of stairs and no one sees it, like, that's okay. Carry on. Just pretend it didn't happen, right? Failure only happens once you've achieved a certain level of success, right? So from a getting started point of view, you have absolutely no fear around getting started, because there is no failure. Literally no failure. When you get to that point, when you've achieved a certain level of success, and there's people have got expectation, there's an audience or whatever it is, then you start going, well, maybe now I could cock this up, I could fail at this point. But to get started, there is no such thing as failure. You just start and see what it becomes. Find something that you think will make you happy. Find something that you have a passion for, and absolutely just put your head down and go for it. And that's it. Thank you, guys.